and welcome to this video. In this video I want to talk to you about the difference of RAW and JPEG. I remember when I started that it was like I just wanted to have fun and take pictures, and I heard about people saying, yeah, shooting in RAW, and it sounded like you should do that, or I felt like I should do that, but I just tried to make a very quick research and I didn't found anything, just that I immediately got it, and then I just started to shoot RAW and JPEG and went outside and had fun. And after that I had a look at the photos in RAW and I was pretty disappointed, since yeah, they just didn't look good. When you have a RAW and a JPEG file on your computer and you haven't edited any of them, then the RAW just looks awful. It's terrible. It's just like pale and grayish and it's not nice. And on the other side then you have the JPEG, and the JPEG is very colorful, and then you can see like it feels like there's some life in it, and the RAW feels like, yeah, you could say it looks pretty bad. And that was something that disappointed me a lot, but the point or the difference in them is that the JPEG already had an edit, just one in your camera, so you don't get to know that. And with the RAW, there is no edit at all. So the camera just gets the information of the picture and leaves it. And then it's your turn to make the edit to make it look nice. Shooting RAW for me only makes sense when you want to edit your photos in Lightroom, for example, or in Photoshop you have like a camera RAW editor as well. And if you want to do that, then it makes sense, since then you can twist all the settings and make the photo look like you want to have it. But if you don't want to do that in the beginning, I just wanted to take photos, have fun outside, and then use them maybe for a photo album or something like that. And especially when I'm on a holiday and then I have like 2,000 photos, for example, then I'm not like, oh well, I'll edit 2,000 RAWs. I'm not doing that. Maybe you're the one who's doing that, but I'm not. And then I'm just using the JPEGs. And in the beginning, I only used JPEGs, since I was like, I had so much fun taking the pictures and I had fun looking at them, but I wanted to have like already something to look at that was nice, and not to look at a RAW picture that was just, yeah, awful, terrible. Looked like grayish, pale and dead. Alright, I made a few comparisons in different scenarios, shooting RAW or shooting with JPEGs, because that was what I wished back when I started to see somewhere, or to have like yeah, these comparisons. And one is in low light. I made a comparison between RAW and JPEG in low light, and I took this photo on purpose, or I already took that one, but I used one that was underexposed a lot. And I did that on purpose, since with a perfectly exposed photo you won't see that of a difference between RAW and JPEG, and with an underexposed there you can notice differences. And that's one thing I started to use very early, that when there was a very low light situation, that then I shoot it in RAW or used the RAW on purpose, since I got back much more information or less grain than with a JPEG. And you can see that in this comparison. Especially I made a zoom in on the leaf, and there you can see that in the RAW the leaf and also the background is pretty smooth, and in the JPEG you can see the grain getting through. And you can see that also in the picture in the full frame itself, but I feel like that on the tiny little screen of yeah, maybe on an iPhone, on YouTube, I think you won't notice it. But when I just saw it on my computer, I saw the grain in the JPEG. Another test I made is to change the colors, and especially like to tweak around all the colors. And maybe I took a photo, or the example here is of a hike I did in Switzerland at the UNEDITED. The grass and the trees were green and it was a nice summer day, and changing colors you can make like look like autumn or give it like a different vibe or look. And that's something I read during my research, that it would be or work out better with RAW than JPEG. And I felt like, in the beginning I felt like, well, it makes sense, since in the RAW you still have all the information, and so it will be easier to tweak it around instead of the JPEG that already like made the decision, well, it's gonna look that way, and then it will be quite difficult to make like a different look out of it. But I realized myself, you can I don't know, get your own opinion about the comparison I made here, and it works pretty fine with both, I feel. And what I didn't do, but I feel like you won't do that when you use the photos, I didn't make like a zoom in and have a look like, oh well, here it looks terrible, and on the other side it looks so smooth or something. I just looked at the photos, edited them both, and was like, well, they would work both. And the only thing I noticed is when I edit the photo, I first edited the RAW, and then in Lightroom you can just copy all the attributes you made of this photo, this edit, and paste it on another one. So I just copied the edits I made on the RAW and pasted them on the JPEG. And with that, since the JPEG already has some settings applied, the JPEG looks like a little bit over the top. So I just had to go back with the riders a little bit and the settings, so that it doesn't look like, oh my god, the saturation is just way too high, for example. One other thing that is very useful about shooting RAW is that when you have your scene or your subject, whatever you want to take a photo of it, and that you expose that one right, and then your sky is just gonna be white. Not because there isn't anything up there, it might be a blue sky with a few clouds or something, but yeah, you can't just expose it so you have both. You have the sky with the clouds and, for example, the mountains with the tree, or with the lake. And with that, the RAW is very handy, since that's something I noticed clearly a difference between RAW and JPEG. In JPEG, the preset by the camera already decided, well, you're only going to see the mountain, the tree, and the lake. That's it, and we don't care about the sky. And in the RAW, you can say, well, I care about the sky too. I want to have something in there as well. And so you get the information back. Just for you to know, you get more information out of a RAW, but when the conditions are very, very bad, then you won't get a lot, or maybe even any information out of a RAW as well. There's one thing that isn't that nice about RAWs, and that's the file size. Since you still have every information that the camera got from this picture, the file size is so much bigger than a JPEG that already just decided, well, we're gonna look like this, and all this information over here, we don't need that anymore. It's in the bin, it's emptied, and so the file size is much, much tinier. I have problems with storage on my MacBook all the time. I don't know, maybe I'm the only one, or maybe you feel that like that as well. And photos from a trip or just something, from a holiday, whatever. And I put them on my MacBook. Sometimes I'm like, oh wow, help! I don't have enough space for that, or it's using so much space. And then when I sort out the photos, and especially then I obviously sort out the RAW and the JPEG, but when I delete the RAWs that I don't need, that I sort out, there is so much more space all the time. The RAW files I get with my camera are almost double in size than the JPEGs. A single RAW file has 24.7 megabytes and a single JPEG file only 13.9 megabytes. And with just one single file, it's not such a big deal. But then when you have like a folder from your trip, it makes quite a difference. So I have the folder with all the photos in JPEG are 853.7 megabytes, and the RAW is 1.49 gigabytes. And if anyone else struggles just with the numbers or with megabytes, gigabytes and how they relate to each other, I asked Google and just put in megabyte to gigabyte, and 853.7 megabytes are 0.8537 gigabytes. Alright, now there's one last thing I'd like to tell you about the RAW files, and that are the XMP files. And for that, imagine that you're in Lightroom and that you're editing, or you can do it also in Photoshop with the Camera Raw plugin or whatever, and I just use Lightroom for myself. You just do your edit on the RAW, and then when you save that, you get an XMP files with all the editings you did saved in the XMP file. So when you have like the RAW file and the XMP file in the same folder, and you open that RAW again, then it will appear with all the edits you did. But if you delete the XMP file, the RAW will just appear again like it was out of camera. So just keep in mind, don't delete the XMP files when you edited stuff, because in there's all the information of your edit. I realized that the light outside changed quite a lot. I hope it's not too annoying, the light changing, but yeah, I'll give my best editing it, and I'm sorry for light changes in it, but I hope you liked it. Thank you very much for watching, I appreciate that a lot, and I hope you got something out of this video, and yeah, pretty happy about it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!